ladies and gentlemen. I think we're ready to get this started tonight. Everybody settled in? A chance to grab a seat if they hadn't. Okay, well, thank you for joining us tonight. We deeply appreciate your support. And when we're talking about tonight, only a community as a whole can change. But before we get into our program at all, I want to introduce Mayor Pro Tem Annette Berrigan, who's going to give us the welcome from the city of Hermosa Beach.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming. We have a very important event here tonight. I was fortunate last year to be one of the panelists to talk about underage drinking and what we could do. I'm looking forward to seeing the panel this evening and welcome you all here to our beautiful city, and hope that we have a lot of interaction and questions, and have our police chief who will be on the panel tonight talking about what we can do to address this growing problem that is occurring in the beach city. So thank you all for coming, and I look forward to a lovely discussion.
Okay, so for any of you that were here last year in the big theater downstairs, we have a few changes, some of which I hope will be really nice to have in our smaller environment here. The first thing we're going to start with, because there's a follow-up event to this happening in a few weeks here on the 28th, and this video is going to start to explain the concept. Following the video, we're going to have some of our young people that volunteer to help out tonight actually act out some of the concept for you. And then that will provide some of the material for our panel that will follow. So we'll go ahead and start that, Rhonda. Direct your attention there and move on after the video.
What your kids are doing when they go out at night, our cameras followed moms and dads inside a simulated underage party complete with booze, drugs, and sex. KCAL's Christine Lazar shows us.
Come on in. It's not your typical house tour in South Pasadena.
Hey guys, it's beer now!
This tour is filled with underage drinking.
I got some coke, I got some meth.
Drugs, and sex.
Good night, Jackie.
It's called a reality party for parents, put on by a group of teenage actors to play out what your typical high school house party might look like.
Hey guys, we bought a cake.
Yeah!
We've created a script, we bring it into a home, and we want parents to understand the culture in a way that they're going to be able to have more relevant discussion with their kids.
Catherine Casimir is with Straight Up Reality Improv based in Ventura, which put on the reality party for dozens of parents one Saturday afternoon. Marina Kuvestrian, mayor of South Pasadena and a parent of a teenage girl and an 8-year-old boy, was one of the participants.
Sad, angry that our kids are going through this, and just a sense that we need to do something.
South Pasadena is known for its small town feel and top-notch schools. The program designed to show that in any community, children could end up succumbing to peer pressure.
You have to take a shot.
Natasha Prime is a counselor at South Pasadena High School.
Particularly in communities where there tends to be money or disposable income for some kids, there's a lot more partying that goes on and availability to pay for drugs and alcohol.
As parents walk through the reality party tour, they witness drinking games, fistfights, and sexual situations, like girls passed out in a dark bedroom. Even a scenario where an adult sexual predator crashes the party.
Your daughter thinks I'm 17-year-old Josh from Altadena.
Parents learned how underage teens might buy alcohol.
You just walk into the store with a grocery cart, the alcohol in, and walk right out.
And how they may lie to their parents, who have no idea where their children really are or who they're hanging out with.
And let's make it normal for parents to know the other parents as their kids' friends. That's not normal anymore, but it could become that.
1, 2, 3.
It really hit me hard.
Lisa Boyd hosted the party at her home, which she shares with her young daughter.
I'm going to start talking to her about these issues probably in the next year, because things are happening much younger now.
Sophie Dreskin is 13 and was one of the actors.
I always thought it was a little bit blown out of proportion, but I guess it's not.
2 local groups, Moms for Community and Day One, which helped to organize the reality party tour, are pushing for South Pasadena to adopt a social host ordinance, which would allow law enforcement to go after teens or their parents if they host a party with underage drinking.
They want it faster, harder, bigger, better. And we as parents need to see this behavior, we need to identify with it, and we need to stop living in our bubbles.
And that was KCAL's Christine Lazar reporting there. You just saw a simulated high school party, but organizers tell us kids as young as 9 are being introduced to alcohol, and middle schoolers are throwing parties with drugs, booze, and sex.
Okay, so that was, I think for a lot of people that are involved in our Prevention Community Council that's putting on this event, one of the first things we got to see about what this was about. One of the things that many of us have not gotten to see yet is an actual performance. There will be a full reality party happening on the 28th. We wanted to give you kind of the equivalent of when you see trailers of the movies, and you see here's the coming attractions tonight. And I want to thank our teams that volunteered to do this, because it's not an easy thing to get up on a small stage in front of people in this intimate setting. I don't think they realized what this theater was like, but are willing to help us out. And so this would be Addison Bross, Jacob Valdez, Talia Serrano-Weiss, Darren Rothschild, Justine Matamoros, Jade Cervantes, Trevor Stamps, and Dan Bradford really helped get them together. Is he still here to be part of it?
No, he had to leave.
He had to go. He was one of the adults who really helped pull this together. We really want to thank our youth and young adults who helped me put this on. We realize this is not an easy thing to do. So we can welcome them to the stage, and they're going to put on some various skits for you. And then after that, we'll have a moderated panel, and then we'll start taking questions from the audience.
Hey, Addie. Nothing much. My parents just left. I think you should come over. Yeah, bring Jacob. All right, bye. Jade, come over right now. My parents just left, and I have a bunch of bottles. Yeah, you know my address. All right, bye. Jacob. So, how was your night tonight?
Good.
What you guys been doing?
Just driving around.
I'm so glad you guys came over. My parents just left.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't really come home.
I don't really think they're going to be coming home tonight. Maybe around 1, but I know they're going away.
Oh, for sure.
Hey, guys. Guess who brought the party with them? Yes.
Hey.
Hey, do I know you?
I don't know, you should.
So, I have a bunch of bottles, and I think we should start drinking.
Addie, you should, like, take a swig.
Come on,
Like,
Addie.
I've already had 6 shots, so.
You've had 6?
Yeah.
And you drove us over here like
I'm
that?
not even, like, drunk.
Yeah, you're
I'm
drunk.
fine.
Hey, does anyone got a light? You're gonna smoke in my parents' house?
Well, there's nothing else to do. Fine, whatever. Do any of you guys want to go out with me? I'm gonna go smoke a few joints in the garage.
No, you can do that by yourself. Come on, Addie. Take some.
I don't know.
Come on.
Like, it doesn't even taste like.
Yeah, come on.
It tastes really bad.
No, it's
Like,
fine.
you keep drinking and, like, the taste practically goes away. Like, you stop tasting things.
Like, we have other stuff too, so.
But wait, be quiet. I think someone's calling. It's my mom. Hi, Mom. No, we're just gonna watch a movie, and we made some Rice Krispie treats. No, I don't think I'm gonna be home. I think I'm gonna sleep over at Talia's. Okay, love you. Bye-bye.
See, we're in the clear.
We're totally fine. Like, just drink some more.
Yeah, come on.
Stop touching my boyfriend.
Addie, I would
Are you
never go
serious?
out
Like,
with your
I'm
boyfriend.
tired of you always getting jealous over little things.
Well, I'm tired of
Nothing's
flirting
going
with
on.
girls.
Whatever.
Whatever.
He's a douchebag. Seriously. I would never go after your boyfriend.
I know, I love you.
I love you too. Seriously, it's fun.
He's been so rude lately. I don't know what's wrong with him.
You guys are stupid.
He's been drinking a lot.
Hey, when did you get here?
Nice, Becky. You look good, by the way.
Thank you.
Very attractive. Have you ever done any modeling?
No. We're not pretty enough for that.
We're tall enough.
Yeah.
You definitely look great in the camera.
Really?
Really?
Take a look at some of these pictures.
No. I mean, we do look pretty.
I mean, we do look pretty good.
Give me some of that. It doesn't taste that bad.
You're right, now it doesn't taste that bad, but in the beginning it did.
Yeah. Take some more shots. So, what did you do today?
Well, Jacob got high.
So did I!
Oh. That's cool.
Yeah. You should really start getting into it. It's a lot of fun. And it doesn't even like hurt your grades or anything. I can focus on school and do drugs at the same time.
Yeah, I know, like you have straight A's. I don't know how I could do that.
Yeah, just comes naturally. And a lot of Adderall. Maybe. I think you should just make it with Jacob.
Allie, can I come talk to you for a second?
Yeah, just I'll be right back. I'll talk to him. Trust me, we'll be fine.
Whatever. I don't really feel that good.
Just sit. We'll be fine, okay?
I can take you to the restroom.
Okay.
Anything else for me getting the feeling that things aren't going to go well by the end of the night for these young folks if that continues? So, why don't you all come on back out and take a bow. That is not easy stuff to do. You did awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to next have a panel of experts in various, okay? Local experts in various areas related to this come up. But before I introduce them, I wanted to thank the city for hosting us here in the theater, which it looks like actually turned out to be just about the right size, maybe a tad small. We can put it downstairs. We have too much space, so it's worked very nicely. Mayor Pro Tem Berrigan a while ago when she welcomed all of us. We have Councilman Bangery here in the front row. City Manager Bakley was here earlier. I think gave up his seat to be, I'm sure what someone needed to sit, but has been extremely supportive of our program, as has all of the city. We'll be meeting someone very important in the city on the panel here in just a moment. Am I missing anybody else? Do we have any other dignitaries here that I was not aware of? For a second we had one, but there's okay, so I'm going to be your moderator tonight. My name is Michael Ballue. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for Behavioral Health Services. A lot of what's happening in this campaign falls under our contract with Los Angeles County to provide prevention services. The reason that I'm involved in this particular contract, my heart's kind of in this work in this area. When I was a youth, which was a long time ago, I think you can see the gray in this lighting. I didn't live in the beach cities, but I did a lot of surfing and skateboarding in the beach cities. This was when I was a teenager, my home away from home. And I spent a lot of time working in adolescent treatment in the beach cities back in the 90s and have stayed in touch through being a board member for South Bay Coalition and involved in prevention programs. So for a long time, it's mattered to me what happens in this area. And worked in the field of alcohol and drug treatment prevention for about 25 years. So I'm going to moderate. Our first guest that's going to come up is Hermosa Beach Police Chief Sharon Papa. Hired on October 1st of 2013. She came to the beach cities by way of the Los Angeles Police Department, where she was Assistant Commanding Officer of the Valley Bureau. Prior to that, she served as the Chief of Police for Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority, where she built a relatively obscure police force into the 10th largest law enforcement agency in California. She led the Police Officers Association of Los Angeles County as president and executive board member, and is now fully engaged in leading community policing strategies in Hermosa Beach. Chief Papa is committed to managing and reducing the negative impact of alcohol consumption on young people. Thank you for joining us here tonight. A tremendous ally. Our next guest is Dr. Donnie Watson. He's the program director of the Thelma McMillan Treatment Center. That's a local treatment center that has an adolescent patient program. He's an expert in evidence-based substance abuse prevention and treatment strategies and has written over 50 publications on the subject. Prior to working for Thelma McMillan, Dr. Watson served as senior principal investigator of UCLA's Integrated Substance Abuse Program and directed the Cork Institute on Alcohol and Drug Abuse at Morehouse School of Medicine. He received a doctorate from Vanderbilt University and is with us tonight to discuss the neurological aspects of underage drinking.
Hi, folks. Thank you.
Dr. Watson has also been a longtime ally of our efforts, and the Thelma McMillan Center has just been a wonderful resource for the South Bay community for quite some time. Our next panel member, Debbie Bross. In her 16 years as a stay-at-home mother, Debbie Bross has been active in parenting, education, and community issues. She's a volunteer for the Beach Cities Health District, the University of Santa Monica, and the Freedom to Choose Prison Project. She has spent several years studying different styles of parenting and works with other parents and groups. She holds a bachelor's degree in sociology from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and she lives in Manhattan Beach with her husband, 3 teenage daughters, and 3 puppies. We're really happy to have a parent addition to our panel this time. Last time we did not have direct parent representation except through dual roles. So I think having someone really represent parents is a nice addition, and thank you for joining us. Next up, we have Joan Jenkins. Joan is the city prosecutor for the city of Manhattan Beach and the city of Gardena. She received her JD from Duke Law School and has been mediating and prosecuting since graduation. She also served as city prosecutor for the cities of Torrance and South Pasadena and has prosecuted for the city of Los Angeles. Additionally, she is responsible for social host ordinance hearings for Manhattan Beach. She has developed and conducted seminars on how to deal with difficult people in the U.S. and conflict resolution for disaster and emergency relief in India. She began the peer mediation program for Manhattan Beach Unified School District elementary schools and instructed the program's peer mediation counselors. Alongside the Manhattan Beach Police Department, she has created a unique approach to juvenile offenses in a restorative justice model. We're lucky to have her here with us tonight. Next up, we have Colleen Edgar. Colleen spent several years at Marymount College in the Student Development Services Department at the Wellness Center, where she organized health-related events, facilitated recovery groups, and presented topics related to addiction. As an adjunct faculty member, she taught a psychology course called The Art of Being Human. Additionally, she has been the faculty advisor for the Sober Solutions Student Club, which facilitates the Safe Rides program. The students have endearingly nicknamed her Buzzkill. Colleen has more than a dozen years' experience as an addiction specialist. She volunteers in several philanthropic organizations in the community and is an active participant in recovery groups. Colleen and her husband have raised 4 sons here in South Bay. Welcome. We have her here. I think it's been a lot of years back when we first started working together on stuff in the South Bay. Next one, very special guest we had on our last panel, and I'm hoping we have on every panel from here on out, Melissa Flores. Melissa's graciously joined us tonight to give us insight and analysis of her experience as a teenage alcohol abuser. Ms. Flores took her first drink at 14 and quickly spiraled out of control, ending up in places and circumstances that put her health and well-being in serious jeopardy. Prior to her alcohol dependency, Ms. Flores was a straight-A student, excelled in sports, and looked forward to a college education. By the age of 19, she realized that her college dreams would be no more. In fact, she couldn't even complete high school. While all her friends were off to college, she ended up in a lockdown treatment center leaving for her 19th birthday. Ms. Flores now enjoys a life in recovery and works to raise awareness of the pitfalls of underage drinking. She's happy to share her experience, strength, and hope, and I know she wishes to never have gone down that path. She's here tonight to help others, maybe not. We were fortunate enough to have her last time, and she knocked it out of the park, so we're very lucky to have her back. Last but definitely not least, we have Mark Reese. Mark is an agent with the state of California, Alcoholic Beverage Control, where he works vice crimes and alcohol enforcement in Los Angeles County and other areas of Southern California. He's a United States Air Force veteran and retired Mesa, Arizona police officer. During his police career, Mark worked multiple details, including patrol officer, detective, police canine handler, and helicopter pilot. Mark retired from the police department after 28 years of service. So we have an extremely deep and broad panel here. We came up with a question for each of them to get it kicked off, and we'll allow them to answer those and interact with each other's answers as they wish. And after that, we'll open it up for questions from the audience. So we're going to start with Chief Papa. As our top law enforcement officer in the city of Hermosa Beach, what would you say is the biggest obstacle you face with teenage drinking? What are some viable solutions? And what can the community provide in the way of tools and allies that would be valuable?
Do you mind if I stand up? Because,
not at all.
Okay, but since there's no microphones, I think everyone can hear me pretty well. You know, when I first came here to Hermosa Beach, probably one of the most astounding statistics I got was from Behavioral Health Services when they told me that the rate of underage drinking in the South Bay was greater than anywhere else in the county of Los Angeles. And I was really struck by that because I thought, why is that? And started talking to a lot of people, and what I found interesting is so many parents told me, we don't have at-risk kids here. They come from wealthy homes and they're well cared for, and so we don't have problems like that here. And I thought that's the biggest part of the problem, is parents don't recognize that kids have a lot of free time, and you may have a good child when they're with you one-on-one, but you put them with their friends and you put them in party situations, just like you saw acted out here, people start caving in to peer pressure. I mean, that's just the reality. So it doesn't mean your kid is a bad kid. It just means they make bad decisions, and they're learning, they're growing, and even when they haven't had alcohol, their decisions are questionable. So you add alcohol to the mix and we've got a bigger problem. So for me, the biggest thing that we can do is get the parents engaged, get them to recognize that talking about this doesn't mean there's something wrong with your kids. It means we need to talk to your kids and make sure they understand there are true consequences to drinking. And some of it is, last year we talked a lot about what the consequences were to their driver's license if they got caught with an open container, that they could have their license restricted and held until they were older. But I think this time around what we need to talk about is things like this reality party really hit home, and I'm looking forward to attending on the 28th. I have several of these cards. If you haven't taken them, you need to, because I think it's important for parents to recognize that what goes on at parties probably isn't the same. It's not the same kind of party today that you and I went to, and so our frame of reference is a little bit different, and what may or may not go on there. There's a lot of additional pressure on teenagers because of social media. There's a lot of things that can happen at parties where they're going to invite 3 or 4 of their friends, and it starts out small, and next thing you know, someone's sent a note to someone else who sent a note to someone else. And we've had situations where hundreds of kids descend on a house. We haven't had it in Hermosa, but I've been around a long time, and they will trash your house, and there will be sexual allegations, and it's all this that he said, she said, she was out of it enough that she doesn't really remember what happened. Those cases are difficult under the best scenarios. They're even more difficult when alcohol is involved and people's recall is fuzzy and nobody wants to rat out anybody. So there's a lot of dynamics at play. So for me, the best thing we can do is partner with parents and have an open dialogue about it, and not say that happens in other neighborhoods, because it's happening in our neighborhoods and people just don't want to talk about it. So I applaud Behavioral Health Services last year was the first step at having this to get people to talk about it. The follow-up this year I think is critically important. The reality party wasn't anything I had been exposed to before, and when I saw what they were doing, I think it's good, and it takes a lot for kids to stand up to their peers and say, this is not okay. They expect us. I love that nickname, Buzzkill. As an adult, you wear that with pride because you're supposed to be the parent.
It's on my business card.
I love that. But some parents wouldn't want that label. Some parents want to be the cool parents. They want to be the house where the kids want to hang out. And it's okay if you're the house the kids want to hang out because they feel safe. It's not okay if it's because you're the one that lets them drink, or you're the one that lets them smoke dope. And I can't tell you how many parents tell me, well, marijuana really isn't that bad. And, I'd rather have them smoke it here under my roof where I can see what they're doing than have them sneak off and do it somewhere anyway. And there are parents that justify and rationalize that in their head. So I'm not here to tell you how to parent your kids, but I am telling you, you have to be the parent. You're not their friend. You are their parent. It's okay if you're not the cool mom
or you're not the cool dad, or you're the buzzkill. You need to wear that as a badge of honor. And someone talked about getting to know who your friends' parents are. It's really important, and it's really important that you make a call. If they say they're spending the night at so-and-so's house, you call that parent and verify. You know, I was the witch from the West when my goddaughter was living with us. I raised her when she was a teenager, and she hated it because I always called. I always wanted to know who else was going to be there, and then one night I showed up because I knew it was a party, and if you think that didn't go over like a brick. But, so you have to get actively engaged with your kids, and that's not easy to do. So I don't want to spend a lot of time talking because I really do want to engage with questions, but really the best thing you can do for us as a police department is don't be afraid to call us, reach out, tell us if you're having troubles with your kids and you're struggling a bit, and we'll see if we can intervene on the front end versus when it really is a bad situation.
Dr. Watson,
Yes, sir.
science has progressed immensely in a very short amount of time. For most of civilization, we've had to make our decisions about teen drinking without much in the way of scientific evidence about what would make it different for them to be drinking than us. But we've learned a lot in the recent decades, and we're hoping that you could share some with the audience tonight about what makes drinking different for a teenager. That they are not just little people minus the life experience. What's different for a teenager in their brain with drinking compared to an adult?
Thank you, Mike. Well, first of all, can anyone tell me when does the adult brain actually fully develop? 24, 25. Okay. It's 25 for men. Women are more mature, so it's 24. It's true. Sorry, guys. It's always that way. Okay, so what that means...
Speak up just a little bit. They're having trouble in the corner here.
Okay, maybe I'll stand up. I was trying to avoid that. I've been standing up for most of the past 18 hours. We just had a lot of stuff going on this week. Okay, so this is what the challenge is. And parents sometimes will say, well, they're just a little experimentation. First of all, folks, we have to get rid of this whole notion of experimentation is okay, everybody goes through it. No, everybody doesn't go through it. Your kids are doing it. And the stakes are much larger than we ever thought before. Prior to coming to Torrance Memorial Medical Center, I spent over a decade at UCLA, and we did a number of medication development trials. So now we can look at a brain on drugs versus a brain not on drugs. So in this binge drinking is really, really devastating. We can see that kids who binge drink just several times, there's a real difference in how their brains develop. So think about a brain that's this cake batter. It's smooth, there's nothing on it. Kids who binge drink, and you look at their brains versus kids who never do it at all, they're like little pixels or little indentations in their brains, okay? And what that means is, could be a difference between an A and a B, a difference between a certain job or not. These are real differences in how people develop. I imagine somebody in this audience is a good cook, right? Come on, help me. Somebody help me out. What's your favorite dish, ma'am? What do you cook?
What do I cook?
Yeah.
I do a lot of salads.
No, I need a baked good. Who's a baker?
Baked tacos.
Okay, how long does it take?
How long does it take?
Yeah.
About 40 minutes.
No, I need help me, exact time.
43 minutes.
43 minutes, okay, that's your best, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you took it out at 38 minutes, I could still eat it, right? It's edible. Yeah. Play along. Yeah. But it'll never be your 43-minute best dish. And that's what happens when you let your kids start to use drugs and alcohol before they have mature brains. And that's the bottom line, folks, because what I hear all the time, I'm tired of hearing it. Well, they still make good grades. So what? So what? So my frustration is that I'll get kids that they'll just start to experiment, and parents, and I get it. I've been doing this for over 30 years. I get it. When you find out that your child has started to dabble in drugs, it's almost like someone has died. And I kind of use this analogy. Most of you are familiar with Kubler-Ross's stages of grief, right? When you lose somebody, this is what happens as a parent. When your darling who's straight A, they've never done anything wrong, and you find out they've been lying to you for about a year. The first thing that happens is you go into denial. No, it's not. No, it's that other kid's fault. If I could just get $5 for every time I hear it's the other kid's fault, I wouldn't be up on the stage. It's always somebody else's fault. You got to stop that. No, it's your kid. It's your kid's fault. Period. Now you can manage who they are with, and I'm not saying they don't get around negative influences, but these are all affluent kids. So it's like, well, whose fault is it? Okay, so you're in denial a little bit. Well, no. Then you get angry, right? You spend so much money, water polo, tennis, and this is what you decide to do? You're angry. And then you say, well, he's still making straight A's. He's still making straight A's, and I made a deal, a bargain that if he just does it on the weekend, which is insane. You're gonna let somebody with 60% of their brain develop cut a deal with you. It's insane. Think about that, it's really insane. You don't love these kids to death. It's insane to let a 14-year-old cut a deal with you about what they're gonna do in your house. Hey, get out of my room. You mean the room that I'm paying for you to stay in? You gotta stop it. You have to stop it. Okay, so then after the bargaining part doesn't work, then you get into a real depression. I got a problem. I got a problem. And then you grow up and accept there's a problem and do something about it. And so you have to fire that shot over the bow of your kid right away. You never encourage your kids to do anything illegal, ever. Ever. Once you do that, you're done. You're done. And if I hear another kid come into my office and turn around and curse their parent in front of me, I say, get out of my office right now. Get up, get out. And I'm not saying, well, what's making you feel that way today? No. No. They're like, some things are like, they're non-negotiable. You cannot use drugs, period. That's non-negotiable. If you need some help, I'll help you, but it's non-negotiable. So we have to reclaim our kids, stop this madness that everybody does it, because everybody doesn't, and everybody doesn't have to do it, but we can't sign off, and then kids they'll punish you. But you told me you did it. You know what you say? Well, I made a terrible mistake, and I don't want you to make that mistake. You don't engage that. Remember, 14-year-old, 60% of their brain developed, and they're smoking marijuana. And they're going to tell you what to do. And with that, I'll just stop. I thought I was going to stop, but I just want to Mike has been generous enough to let me mention to you guys that Torrance Memorial Medical Center, we have a parenting strategies conference on Tuesday, March 24th, 7 p.m. at the Shade Hotel. There's some flyers out front, but if you get a chance, come out, because we're all working this together. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie, you're a parent that's had the experience of discovering that your teenage daughter was sneaking out and drinking with friends and at parties. How has that changed your role as a parent? And looking back on your experience, what do you feel keeps parents from networking and changing that community norm that drinking is inevitable, it's a rite of passage, they're all going to do it, we might as well cave in and allow it? How do we change that?
Well, when I discovered that my daughter was sneaking out in the middle of the night, going to parties just about every night, it was quite shocking. Because for 16 years, well, 15 years, she was 15 at the time, she was a freshman, and I dedicated my life to being a good mom. I grew up in a pretty chaotic environment, and I knew I wanted my life to be different with my family. So I studied parenting. I went to many classes. I read many books and lectures, and I knew I was a good mom. So when I found out that my daughter was doing this, I was like, this is a bad joke. I really can't believe this is happening in my life, because I've worked so hard to prevent this. was, as I took time to process what was really going on with my daughter, I took some time to see what she was really doing and why she was doing it. I wasn't judging her for what she was doing. I was asking myself, my God, why is she doing this? And when I realized, you know, I am just a really loving person, loving mom. You know what? My abundance of love didn't matter to her because she wasn't loving herself too much. And that was the behavior that I saw in her, that she wasn't loving herself very much. And it made me think, you know, I have a pretty tragic story. In 2008, I had a niece who took her life while she was under the influence of drinking. September of 2014, I had a nephew who took his life under the influence of marijuana. So when my daughter was engaging in this behavior, I was scared. And I knew at that time she needed for me to be with her, not against her. And I was like, okay, this is where we are. How do I support her to get through this? How do I let her know that she's safe, that she's okay, that I'm going to protect her. I'm not going to judge what she's done. I mean, it was hard. Like, you know, I had a lot of flashback, a lot of not nice things said to me, but I was like, you know what? She needs me. She needs me to get through this part of her life. Something's in there that's causing this behavior. So we've worked really hard at becoming really close. And she's doing great. She was one of the actors up here. She's just a rock star, you know, and I believe it's because I didn't judge her behavior. I asked, why is she doing this? And I realized she wasn't loving herself. My niece wasn't loving herself too much. My nephew wasn't loving himself. So I ask all of you as parents and as a community, why are our kids doing this? We all know they're engaging in it some way, but why? What are we not providing for them to have the tools to love themselves? To give them the information that they need to know that they matter. Because in my experience, a lot of kids out there are suffering and we don't even see it. And as parents, some parents are like, not my kid would never do that. Well, you know what? The chances of that are, I don't know, not that great, you know? We're in a community that it's a real problem here. And our kids need us more than ever when they're adolescents. They need a community more than ever when they're adolescents. Because as parents, we don't always have the answers for them. They need something. And I don't know what that is, but I hope as a community we can come together and figure out how we're going to support the adolescents who are our future.
Ms. Jenkins, as a prosecutor for the City of Manhattan Beach, what would you say are the most common repercussions of underage drinking that you come across when it gets to your level? And how have you seen the Manhattan Beach social host ordinance be an effective tool for law enforcement?
Well, you know, the repercussions of teenage drinking, doing drugs, frolicking, are pretty obvious. They're exactly the horrible things that we think they are. So I'm going to go a step beyond that. I'm going to talk about what happens at the parties. I, for the City of Manhattan Beach, conduct the social host ordinance hearings. I also do something that other cities don't do. Instead of, in conjunction with our wonderful police department, instead of having juvenile cases go to court where children get criminal records, I talk them to death in diversion, in juvenile diversion hearings that I conduct. And instead of having a punitive component, we try to do things in a restorative justice model so that there's therapy, there's drug rehabilitation. We work with Dr. Watson, we work with Project Touch, we work with therapists, we work with community service, we work with the schools. We try to have an all-encompassing approach to dealing with, because I really can't separate social host ordinance cases, which is a civil liability case for the parent, where the parent pays for police costs, basically. But unless I also include the child and include consequences and re-education for the child and try to unearth what the real problem is, then it's just silliness. It's just money, and the child continues the behavior and the parties continue. I have not had one. I've had one case where it was actually a mistake and the child didn't know that there would be drinking and that people would be called by phone, by social media, and she was very surprised. Her parents had been missionaries in Africa. She had just come back. And so she was having a little gathering, and all of a sudden there were many, many people who were there. But usually kids who are non-drinkers, kids who want to be cool, kids. There's the kids who are having kids who are having parties at their houses do so for a reason. So what my job is as a prosecutor or as a person conducting a hearing is to try to figure that out so that it won't recur, the behavior won't recur. And with our social host ordinances, the behavior hasn't occurred at all with any of the kids. And also with our juvenile cases. One thing about parties is the police don't stop at the parties, because once the party has been broken up, kids disperse all over the city, all over neighboring cities. So that means that there are kids who are using less than their full capacity of rationality here, who are potentially drunk in public, who are driving drunk, because you can tell a youth that you'll take away his or her license. It's abstract. It doesn't seem to have an effect. Punishment, I have found, does not have a sustaining impact. You know, there are girls walking home after dark who don't have the same facilities to defend themselves. It's just a terrible situation. And so the police, who are usually looking for bad guys, are looking for kids. And that's really disheartening for the police, but necessary. So there is a rather large fine with the social host ordinances, just to try to defray costs. And the reason I impose so many conditions on the party goers is the party giver in the social host ordinance case is that I really feel that there's a specific reason. It just needs to be unearthed. It's so easy to unearth. Kids want to tell you what the heck is going on at some level. They really want that. It's just compelling, and it becomes obvious. And working together on these two aspects of this really horrible problem of underage. The other thing I wanted to mention before I forget, because I forget things, that's why I have books, is that the marijuana of the 60s and turn in, turn out, drop out was 6% THC. The medical marijuana that's used for people dying of cancer and for MS is 23%. Is that right, 23%? So these little brains, these guys who have been smoking or using their mommy and daddy's or Uncle Joe's medical marijuana cards are just, everyone has to sign paperwork. And I don't tell them where to sign. I say read it. And the guys who are fried from marijuana never know where to sign. They never read signature. They don't know. There are certain things that you just see. But I also see, because this sounds very depressing, I also see after we've worked with community resources, we work with you, that so much comes back, so many clear-headed people come back. I take, Police and I take success story pictures. So we have these snapshots on my phone of kids who you think were, just from the Bowery, and then they come back and they're bright-eyed and they're shaking your hand. And one told me, I was asking if one had, was honoring curfew, and he said, me and Netflix were like this. It's just, and another had said, when I started talking about Project Touch and Thelma McMillan, he said, I thought you were going to give me community service. I said, oh no, I can give you community service in addition, but that's not what he needed. He needed help. And so I am just really enthusiastic and feel so happy that I can work for Manhattan Beach and work on this issue, which is really dear to my heart. And the court systems for either social host ordinances or for most juvenile offenses, it's too draconian, it's terrible. You have a record the rest of your life, or because you went out for dinner, God forbid, and your kid made a mistake, you have a record. It's not necessary. The way we've structured what we do, I believe, has a comprehensive result with a very specific, narrow, problematic area. So I'm really very lucky, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak.
So, Colleen, you have an interesting perspective on this, and that you worked for a long time at a college where many youth from affluent families went. Part of the theme here is the party starts long before college. So you got to interact with a lot of kids who had done this for a while, and you get to see what happens to them over the course of time. Like how does it affect them later? From your unique perspective, what do you think are some things parents should know?
Well, I don't need to use this tonight because this was part of the movie that you showed, so this is the problem in binge drinking. So thank you, Holly, thank you, Mike, thank you, community, for being here tonight to discuss this important topic. And Lord knows, wine, women, song, sex, drugs, rock and roll, many of us of that generation, we certainly aren't going to win the war, but we do have to really be vigilant and mindful parents and professionals in our community to save our kids. And that's what this is all about. So I want to address that question and also cite a few statistics. Starting with the CDC, Center for Disease Control, finds that 45% of teenagers report consumption of alcohol in the past month. And 64% of the teens who drank said they were binge drinkers. And that's why I brought this and the red cups, because this is the issue that we're dealing with. The kids are consuming massive amounts of alcohol in a very short amount of time with the drinking games and the beer bong and really dangerous bingeable behavior. Binge drinking meaning 5 drinks in a row for men, 4 drinks in a row for women, females. The other part that I thought was interesting that I wanted to share with you is underage drinkers account for nearly 20% of the alcohol consumed in the United States each year. So as an advertising background that I have from my college, initially, I think to myself, well, boy, there's an audience that we all want to reach, right? And if you go to any sporting events, you know that that is indeed what you're reaching. And I have a little slogan I use with the teens: Bud did not make Bud wiser. Kind of like that, right? The findings indicate that women seem to develop alcohol dependence faster than men, and that is actually true with the adolescent brain as well, even though the female brain is developing faster to the age of 23, right, as opposed to 25. But nonetheless, we're working with a deficit. People who began drinking before age 15 years old are 4 times more likely to develop alcoholism than those who began at 21. And this is a really difficult discussion that we have on a daily basis with teenagers, because they can go to war and they can vote, but they can't drink until they're 21. Many of us from a variety of different states remembered being able to drink at different ages, 18, 19, but 21 is now the drinking age throughout the United States. And there's discussion of that changing, but hopefully for the time being, that will remain. I remember where I grew up, we used to drive to Canada so we could drink at 18. You know, none of this stuff has really changed. But the drinking patterns have changed. 70,000 college students a year in our country are raped or sexually assaulted yearly as a result of alcohol. 70,000. How frightening is that? I want to share a personal story about that was an incident that happened at our college. There was an off-campus drinking party, binge drinking. One of the girls, let's call the group of kids Peter, Paul, and Mary. So Peter and Paul were getting very, very, very intoxicated. And Mary ended up waking up, you know, the hookup from hell. I say remove date rape because there's no date attached. But she woke up next to a guy that she was mortified, humiliated, embarrassed. And she snuck out of the room and she went downstairs and found her friend, and they had security come. And she said, somebody must have slipped, back in my day we called it a Mickey, but now, you know, GHB, something in my drink. I have no acute memory of what happened, but fuzzy, and I think that something happened without consent. So after judicial review and testing and taking appropriate actions, that young man was removed from the college. You know what? It came to our knowledge later on that she had done the same thing in Texas. So did it or didn't it happen? We don't know. Does she know? Does he know? Who knows? But look what happened, you know? His college education, his acceptance was rescinded because of that. And as a mom of 4 boys, good Lord, that's scary, right? Because we all know how hard we are working to get our kids launched and independent and free, and that's what they want too. And many, many incidents, as I said, 70,000 in our country and those are drinking related assaults. So, you know, this is something that we really, really do need to continue to have community forums about. 25% of college students say that alcohol has lowered their GPA. They recognize that. Do they do something different? Not necessarily. So I have, you know, many expressions. Nancy Reagan had one that was just say no. And we all know professionally that that wasn't real effective. But I say just say no, K-N-O-W. Let's be aware of the best action that we can take as parents. You know, we come home with an appliance with a whole lot of more instructions than we get coming home with our kids, right? But we do need to know what to do. And we do have the phenomenal resources in our community to help you help raise your kids. So reach out and use them. I think it's interesting that most of the parents that come to the treatment center where I work and have been for a decade now have had problems in their home for 2 years before they come to us. So they're walking on eggshells. And who's ruling the roost? And they've lost their footing and their leverage and their ability to be the best parent that they can. And they're scared. And fear can be debilitating. And they're in denial. And denial is not just a river in Egypt, right? So reach out and help each other. Be the community that we have to be. We have to be the village. And we've kind of lost sight of that. And I say that as a parent who has trouble. This is a really difficult thing to deal with as moms who want to tell other moms what we know. And then it backfires and we lose a friendship. But let's lose a friendship and save a child. Right? You know, maybe that friendship wasn't worth worth it anyhow. So we have to speak up, and that's really hard to do because I don't know about you guys. I don't necessarily know the people around me that live, you know, across the street and next door. I say my dog is neighborhood watch, not me. You know? All right, so if you see something, say something. I saw that recently on a bumper sticker on a police vehicle. I thought, yeah, right on. I like that. I also like, my kids have told me that this was the most effective thing that my husband and I did, and that is we had our sons sign, be a responsible teen contract. Teach and treat these girls like they're your sisters. Boys treat the girls like they're your sisters. Girls treat the boys like they're your brothers. And sign a contract that says that I am going to be the responsible kid. I'm not going to climb into the car with, say, one of the kids is drinking and he's big and burly and he holds his liquor, you know, the one that, you know, has the hollow leg. So those are the kids that other kids are climbing in the car because that kid has demonstrated that he's a good drinker, right? And more often than not, on Dateline, this was on television recently, the kids are climbing into cars where people have been drinking. There were only 2 girls that didn't. That's frightening in itself as well. So the teen contract is great. I have a sample of that if anyone wants one. Teens are finding themselves at this point in their lives, and they, part of their teen development is that they want to be different than you. Remember us as teens? We wanted to be different than our parents. So what I say to that is that they are at this point of individuating, and we need to respect that, but also be the parent. Be the parent. Our parents did a hell of a good job being the parent, didn't they, for the most part? So be the parent, not necessarily, some of us are. Be the parent that your teen needs to blame. My son said, Mom, as soon as you started random drug testing, after I found, you know, the piece and the pipe and the paraphernalia, that, and he realized his privileges would be revoked, including the freedom of being, the luxury of being able to go to college. You know, lose the surfboard, lose the surf team, lose water polo, lose all the things that Dr. Watson talked about. You know, that mattered to him. He didn't want to lose all those privileges. So he said, Mom, as soon as we could blame you, that helped us. And the friends that cared about us the most didn't want us to partake. Isn't that helpful? So the fact here is that, you know, we all know that alcohol is dangerous because it is a depressant drug that does indeed depress the central nervous system. It is true that any person can die from acute alcohol poisoning, and we see that in ER frequently. And it is true that they don't have to drink or get effed up to have fun. And that's what we want to help carry that message. So tonight, I thank you for this opportunity. This is my passion. It is my profession as well as, you know, my personal quest to help reach out to your community and our community and help save a life or several. So we are, you know, you are the choir for being here. Thank you for your attention.
So, Melissa, as a youth representative, I was thinking if I was a parent sitting in the audience and I was watching the video and the skits, if I didn't want there to be a problem, and a big part of me might look at that and go, they're blowing that a little out of proportion, like they're being overly dramatic to carry the point. As a youth, drank at teen parties, how did you feel about what was presented? Did that feel unreal or unrealistic? And how do teens do it? And what, from a teen perspective, would you have told parents they could have done for you? I wouldn't have asked for back then.
I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be back. Thank you, Holly, for having me come do this again. When I first saw the video, when the video was sent to me through email, it's very real, the teen party that was shown on the big screen. That's exactly what the parties look like that I was going to when I was 14. You know, there was always a liquor store in town that sold us liquor. You know, I remember being 15 putting on some jeans and boots and a little bit of lipstick, and I can go into the liquor store and come out with anything. And, you know, we didn't even know how to drink yet. And the funnel that you have, oh my gosh, you know, I don't know how many of those I was able to do in a row. And I was a baby. You know, I didn't know that at the time, though. And just the beer games and the beer bongs and, you know, the sex that goes on. You know, and I was saying the same lies that you heard up here. You know, my mom would call and, you know, I'd go to a quiet room and tell her, oh, you know, whatever the lie was that night, whether I was at the movies, at a friend's house, at a friend's family party, and because I had a cell phone, you know, she never needed any other phone numbers. You know, she felt that she can get a hold of me and that that was okay. I think my ditching parties were a big deal. That was where most of the fun happened. My parents both worked a 9 to 5. We had a big, beautiful home, and we threw a lot of ditching parties. And you know, parents would leave at 8 o'clock in the morning to go to work, and I knew they wouldn't be back till 6. And I'd be drunk by 10 a.m., you know, and so would everybody else. And we had a huge pool in the backyard, and I mean, we just have a full-on party on a Tuesday morning. And kids would leave around 3 because they had to go home and act like they were going home from school. And I would sober up and someone would help me clean. And the house would be spotless by the time my mom got home at 5. And no one ever knew that anything had went on. And that happened very regularly, all the time. I rarely got caught. You know, other kids were doing, you know, I'd host one, someone else would host one. And then parties at night also, you know, on the weekend. I mean, that was my life. I was a good athlete. My parents put me in private school. I was in private school, and, you know, it was a small community. You know, I was a star on the volleyball team, star on the softball team. And I had decent grades. I wasn't really kept accountable to, you know, getting straight A's or anything like that, but I excelled in sports, and I brought home a B average, and that was in this little community. And then I went to high school, and I went to public high school. And I went to summer school before my freshman year to, you know, get more credits and to go in and excel. And within my first week of starting summer school before my freshman year, I was taken to a party. And it was where all the seniors were at. And yeah, I was handed a beer. I'd never had a beer before. It was gross. I drank it anyways. I acted like it wasn't my first one. And it started from there. And by 16, I had a license. My parents bought me a car. Around 16, I was already a daily pot smoker. It was just really normal. I was really good at manipulating my parents. I was really good at minimizing when I would get caught. My parents were divorced, both remarried. It was really easy to say, Mom, I'm going to Dad, Dad, I'm going to Mom's. They didn't like communicating. I had a cell phone, they had no reason to communicate. Half of the time, I was able to get away with a lot. So, yeah, I didn't end up graduating high school. They thought that I did. I acted like I was mad at them and that I didn't want them to come to my high school graduation. And yeah, and they had planned a family vacation around that time, and I said, let's just go on the vacation, or you guys go on the vacation and I'm gonna go to my graduation, or something. You know, I don't remember what happened, but I acted like I was mad at them and I didn't want them to show up. And I didn't graduate. And I am an alcoholic. I did get sober about 6 months after what should have been my high school graduation. I went into my first treatment center a week before my 19th birthday. So yeah, what I think my parents could have done that I didn't know that they should have done for me was I should have been accountable to someone, you know, a lot more than I was. Between the hours of 9 to 5 while my parents were at work, I could say what they wanted to hear, you know, and as long as I gave a certain presence, I could get away with anything. And they had no idea most of the time. I remember being 16 and we just smoked a joint. It was 8 in the morning. We decided to ditch school and we all get in my car and go to TJ. And we go get drunk in TJ for the day and we're back by 7 p.m. You know, and our parents, I mean, there was 5 of us girls. We're in Mexico. We're 16 years old. You know, and we're getting drunk and we think it's funny and you know, all the guys at the bars are like, oh, margaritas, 2 for 1. The next bar is saying, oh, 3 for 1, come here, you know, and the things that could have happened to us, we were in a different country, you know, and that was just a random Tuesday. Yeah, so I think the accountability, maybe I should have had somewhere to go after school. Maybe my parents could have checked on my attendance at school, you know, and when it was brought to my attention, not let me manipulate them and minimize it. You know, I was really good at that. Gotten to know who my friends were, who their parents were, not allowed me to hang out with older kids. Have not been afraid to be overprotective, to overreact, they should have allowed me to be mad at them, you know. Being divorced, they should have communicated. They should have put their differences aside about how they felt about each other, and they should have communicated. It didn't matter that I had a cell phone. I see that all the time. Oh, I got my kid a phone so I don't have to deal with my, you know, with the father. No, you know, your kid's 12. Like, deal with the father, you know. But I see that all the time, you know, or when parents do hang out together while they watch over their kids, all the parents are drinking. You know, the parents have red cups in their hands. Like, your kids are watching you, you know. I come from a Hispanic family where you're allowed to drink at 18. You know, my dad says that. Well, they're allowed to go to the army and die for their country, but they can't have a beer. I'm like, I tell them the same thing. Their brains aren't fully developed, you know. I have a 17-year-old brother. You know, my parents haven't learned. I don't know, my mom was in the audience the last time I did this campaign, and it was really hard for her to hear a lot of the stuff that I had to say. And she went out and she bought the breathalyzer and she bought the drug tests, because my brother's going through all of it right now. And she did that for about 2 weeks. Got the heat off, he got his grades up, came home every day for 2 weeks straight, and then she stopped doing it. You know, my brother parties. He's 17 and he binge drinks. He spends the night at his parents' house or his friend's house. My parents just, you know, they don't know what, you need to know what your kids look like when they get home. I think that's a big one. My parents never knew what I looked like when I got home. They were always already asleep. I would sneak in, jump into bed, I'd wake up in the morning, deal with my hangover, and they'd never know. So yeah, what you saw played up here and the video, it's real, all of it. From A to Z, it was all very real. Daytime parties, nighttime parties, parents home, parents not home, you know. It's very, very real. I don't know if that answers everything.
Thank you so much. Mr. Reese, you're here as a representative of ABC. This is a statewide agency, and you know, one of the main reasons for ABC is to prevent underage drinking on a number of fronts. as representative of the state in our local area, what is it that local communities can do to help ABC? And ABC has a large coverage here. You belong to us, so how do we help?
Okay, I'm going to stand on the side. I feel rude standing in front of people, so if I don't talk loud enough over there, just say the word.
Don't step on
I won't step on your side.
It matches my dress, you know.
All right, as a community overall, the best thing you can do is be aware. Don't hesitate to contact alcoholic beverage control, local police, or whatever if there's any suspicions on your part. I haven't spoke publicly in a long time, so bear with me here. I was a police officer in Arizona for 28 years, a little different but same kind of scenario. I've been around these problems with youth and minors consuming alcohol and drugs for much of my career. I flew helicopters for 10 years, so I was kind of up and away from it, but it was still occurring and so forth. The police chases, the minor parties, the people running all over the place, and when the police show up, and it's the same here in California as it was in Arizona. But the best thing you can do if you know of any places that are selling alcohol, ABC, let me go back a little bit. ABC, state agency, we have 5 agents that work out of Lakewood, Long Beach that cover 32 cities in southwestern LA County. Not a lot. We just got the 5th agent March 1st. When I started in 2011, there were 2 agents covering 32 cities, spread very, very thin. We focus on the places that sell alcohol to the minors, to our kids. I have 3 kids myself, a stepdaughter and two of my own kids. We focus on the places who sell to these kids. A lot of them do. We do a lot of surveillance. We send minor decoys in. I'll explain more about that in a minute. There will be a place close by that will sell to your kids, trust me. If it's not a licensed place, there will be an unlicensed place. If you know of any place, your kids tell you about it, you hear about it from another parent, if you hear something of a place, a licensed establishment that's selling alcohol to minors, call ABC. I have several business cards I can set out here on the table outside or whatever. But don't hesitate to call. If it's something that it's occurring, immediately call your local police. They have the ability to respond right away. You know, with 5 people covering 32 cities, we stay very, very busy. Generally, we're more inland, Compton, Linwood areas and stuff, which I fit in very well over there. But there are a lot of problems in all those places. ABC, we don't just focus on alcohol-related stuff. I just wanted to give a little background on ABC. There's licensing and enforcement. Obviously, I work enforcement. We deal with all vice-related crimes, prostitution, narcotics, gambling, sometimes human trafficking. We're not just set on keeping alcohol out of the hands of minors, even though that's our primary focus, but we have all this other stuff to do also. I had to take notes to keep myself on track also. ABC enforcement is a complaint-generated agency. That's how we respond to problems in communities. Like I said, 32 cities. We run from Long Beach to El Segundo to Hawthorne to La Mirada. We go to all these places on a regular basis, Whittier. So we run around, but all of our activity is generated through complaints. Some of the complaints are bogus, some of them are very, very, very good. So like I said, any suspicions of places that are selling alcohol to minors, please call us. We will definitely look into it and investigate it. Availability of alcohol in the South Bay. Most people think, it's available everywhere. I ran some numbers today in Hermosa, Manhattan, Redondo, and El Segundo. There's 396 licensed on-sale alcohol establishments. Just about 400 of them in the South Bay alone. On-sale restaurants, bars, stuff like that. There's only 128 off-sale liquor stores, 7-Elevens, Albertsons, places like that, Ralph's or whatever. If you think that our kids can't get alcohol at one of these places, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Places due to social media with kids, something that we didn't deal with as young adults. We just, would go to so-and-so's house, hey, let's go get some beer, and we did it that way. Nowadays, kids with their cell phones or iPads and everything else, they know very quickly. The South Bay is not in a bubble. A lot of our focus is on Lawndale, Hawthorne, Inglewood. Kids, I've seen kids from Manhattan, Hermosa, El Segundo, over in these areas. These are not good areas to be in, especially at night. They have the availability of anything they want in any of those cities, including here in South Bay. We do focus on licensed establishments. However, a growing trend nowadays, I just read an article yesterday about in San Francisco, it's people selling alcohol out of their house. They will advertise it on Snapchat, on Instagram, or something like that. Kids, they could care less if you're 16 or if you're 66. Kids can actually order on social media from a private individual at a house, $8 to $10 for an alcoholic drink. Kids will go over there, buy the alcohol, give them the money, get the alcohol, drive away. The people at the house could care less. I've seen that in Long Beach. I've seen that in Compton. I haven't seen it in the South Bay yet. There's no doubt it's going on. If it's going on in San Francisco, it's going to be here soon if it's not already here. Just to make you aware of where alcohol is coming from. Okay, methods that ABC uses to try to get these places that are selling alcohol to minors. We will use a minor decoy. Generally, they're police cadets, police explorers, under 20 years old. They'll work with us. These kids love it. I don't know what they get out of it. They love doing this stuff. We will take them out under our supervision to a licensed place, especially if we have a complaint on these places. We'll send this kid in there, tell them to buy a 6-pack of Bud Light or whatever. They will go in there. The only thing, the state law mandates that they tell the truth about their age. If the clerk in the store asks for their ID, they have to show them their true ID. You wouldn't believe how many places look at it. The big red stripe says age 21 in 2016, and they still sell them the alcohol. But a lot of these stores and businesses, they know if you go in there and they ask how old you are, and the kid says 19, come on. Who tells the truth when they're trying to buy alcohol? I didn't. So they will, if the kid tells the truth, they won't sell to them. But these places are still selling alcohol to these kids. Another thing we do, we don't just focus on the liquor stores. We will do what's called a shoulder tap. We will have a couple of kids, and these explorers love this stuff. They'll stand outside of a liquor store. In Gardena is a few favorite spots of ours. They'll stand out there. People will walk up, drive up. They'll ask the person, hey, I'm only 19. Will you buy me some beer? Sure. It's great. They go in, buy the beer, come out, give it to the kid. Easy. It happens daily. And then we jump out and arrest the person, write them a ticket, or book them, depending on what's going on. That's some of the ways that kids are getting alcohol and what we do to combat that. But our biggest thing is people calling us, telling us what's going on in their communities. There's no way with 32 cities we can know every little store, every little place that may be selling to our kids. One thing ABC does is called lead training. It's licensing, education, alcohol and drugs. It's free training to teach people about not selling to minors and so forth and so on. A lot of places do it. A lot of these mom and pop liquor stores, they need the money, they're slow, they will sell to anybody that comes in there with money. So unfortunately that's one of the things. As a personal note, my stepdaughter, when she was 19, I was a cop in Arizona. I get a phone call at 3 in the morning. Yeah, we have Lauren here. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what happened? She got arrested for DUI. Talking about tough love. I love Lauren. I still do. She's 30 years old, got triplets. Grandpa times 5 right now. Yes, exactly. But I told her, I said, you got yourself into this. I love you very much, but this is all on you. I did not help her pay her fines. I did not pay her car insurance anymore. I did nothing. And I think that she respected me more after that than before, because I would do anything for this girl. She grew up very fast at 19. So, tough love does work. You don't have to be looking over your kid's shoulder, but it's definitely, you have to be aware of what's going on. What we did, what as parents did when we were younger, kids doing that and more nowadays. You just have to be aware and be on top of it.
Just a few moments, we're going to start taking questions. But before we do, I wanted to introduce, we have some other key partners in the room tonight, and I want to make sure we're aware of them, because what we do doesn't happen in a vacuum either. Project Touch has been a huge source of support. Here in the back, and raise your hands, people know. They're providing counseling when families or kids run into issues where they need this kind of help. They've been a resource for a very long time. She's brought an incredible amount of energy to our Prevention Community Council to help us do this. And she's donating her house for the reality party, which means all day on Saturday, people in her house playing this out. This lady is committed, so I wanted to make sure that you know that she was in the room tonight and the role they play. And please, afterwards, if you need to talk to folks, it's a good one too. And we also have Claire in the room.
Can I just say something for one second?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that I do work with a lot of these resources. There is nothing that I will not do for teens in this community. It really warms my heart to see this many people supporting teens. Teens are not the popular population in any community, so to see this many people out to hear a discussion on teens is very different. Most parents have to be mandated in some way to come and talk about teens. And also, what this whole conversation is tonight is about the community and changing the culture in the community. So I really, really appreciate that. So please do pick up that card that was on that table out there. So that residence that says a private residence in Hermosa Beach, I am that crazy lady. So, I have an office on the other side of this on this other side of the hallway. We needed a couch, so they're part of my couch for my counseling center. And I'm the crazy lady giving up my house in Hermosa Beach. So anytime that you have any conversations at all, the last thing I want to say is teens, most of the time, if you are their parent, their teacher, or in some cases their probation officer, they don't want to talk to you because you are that authority figure in their life. But if you're another adult, like a counselor or just an adult who is a friendly face, they want to tell you, and I can tell you that I do know everything, and they want that support. So if in any way you want to support your local agency like Project Touch, I will take your time, your money, or both.
Here we have at least one representative from Claire in the room tonight, if not more, right? Anybody? Claire is the agency that's going to actually directly put on the reality party. They also do prevention work, so although they're not here, they're a big part of it. We have Freedom for You. I know there's someone here from that. Higher so they can see you.
Hi there.
Amazing agency, started up on the hill, is moving into the beach cities. They do some really amazing things for teens that are different. They do battles of the bands, they do different performance entertainment oriented stuff where teens get to really become involved in different positive activities. Something that you would think an affluent community would have plenty of that, but oftentimes not what the kids are going to be into, and Freedom for You brings what they are, an important resource. Although you're not going to see their name on the back of this, Dave Lowe from the Tavern Owners Association is here. You just heard about people buying, kids buying, and one of the things the Tavern Owners Association did was partner with us. So we provide responsible beverage service training to every bartender and server in the on-sale establishments in there. We have hundreds into it by this time, and getting through all of them. They partner to require all of them to do this, so we retrain them from whatever they have with lead. We do RBS in addition, and really go in depth about what's happening locally. The police department comes down and participates. We talk about what's going on locally. We go back through all the different ways to catch fake IDs. He gets them fired up about why you don't want to do this as a business. So they've been an important partner in making sure that we're cutting off that avenue for kids to get. We're moving into working with off-sale establishments too. While they're also not on here, not direct, smoking came up earlier. You saw when the person was going to light a cigarette, they were like told no. If you think about it, a lot of you are old enough to remember, we've really changed as a society with where we're at with tobacco. How many people remember when there was an ashtray on almost every table? It's astounding where we've gotten to because society changed the way it saw it. And that's really provided a lot of energy in the idea that, look, we could change what happens with underage drinking too. There's nothing says that this has to remain normal, that there can be a shift where this is like smoking is, where it's like, hey, that's not okay. And even most of the kids would be like, that's not okay. We can shift this. So when we did a lot of smoking work in the past, Surf Rider was a huge support in the house. So indirectly, but in a big way, they impact prevention efforts in this area. And I'm sure that there's someone I'm missing with all of this, but it doesn't happen without you. So now we want to start taking your questions, because all of us can say we want to do this and we need to do this, but unless the community decides it wants change and parents start talking to each other and taking back the control and power of how their community operates, nothing's going to change. So what can we do to help?
So I'm interested to understand from the panelists the linkage, if there is one, between student stress or teenage stress and emotional health, depression, etc., and some of the drugs and alcohol problems that we have.
Well, we know that especially young people, when they have a substance abuse issue, they have a co-occurring problem too, with maybe anxiety, depression. And so sometimes folks choose to try to self-medicate, and what happens is they end up with two problems. And so certainly if there are issues that are underlying, one of the things that we have to do is to have to deal with the drug or alcohol issue first, and then make sure they get appropriate care if they need it. So they do co-occur.
And when we started this whole program, we had to do a lot of research in the first phase. There's a whole step-by-step process you go. And we did youth surveys and focus groups, and we talked to anyone and everyone related to it. We talked a lot with the PACE class, and that dynamic you talk about is particularly prevalent in affluent communities where performance and accomplishment are highly stressed. And what was reported again and again for these kids was the drinking is my only escape from the nonstop pressure. And when I have some drinks, I don't feel that. The rest of the time, it's on from the time I wake up until the end of the day. And that is huge in this community.
I have a certification in co-occurring disorders, dual diagnoses, and so we do, as a counselor, we do assess the teen to determine, are they self-medicating, are they mind-altering, and if so, why? Because every teen that we ask has a different reason. Frequently it's boredom, sometimes peer pressure, but often it can be, like Dr. Watson said, depression, anxiety, underlying issues. And so we deal with those co-occurring disorders simultaneously with the substance abuse issues so that we can get to the underlying. And we try to get the adolescent to determine, is this self-medicating for a specific reason or acting out for a specific reason? Is this mind-altering because of something underlying? So we can get to the core of it and really address all of it. And is there a family dynamic, genetic predisposition? So all of that really needs to be dealt with at a therapeutic level so that we can get them the appropriate help that they need, whether that's therapy in addition to psychologists, psychiatrists, the whole group support system. That's a good question. All needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I have a question because I come at it from a different angle, because I have 3 teenagers, one in college, a senior, and a freshman. And I'm sorry, I don't remember ABC guy.
Mark.
Talked about trying to control the stores, and I saw in the paper we did a sting operation somewhere, and 1 out of 73. There's lots of efforts to control that. I just don't think that's realistic to believe that's the place that is gonna. If you squash that, you're gonna stop underage drinking. It's just not gonna happen. There's lots of different ways that kids get alcohol. And so I see my son go to college, and I have my daughter, later in high school, and I just am going, what can I equip them with so they make good decisions about what they do? not to scare them and not to like tell stories that are larger than, you know, and like very, you know, awful, but not really relevant when they go out and they see what's going on and it doesn't seem that dangerous and everybody's kind of, you know, kind of doing that. So I think it's really difficult to see how this is, you know, how I can equip my children with a lot of what's been said, to just go out there and know that I don't have that control anymore. That I want them to make good choices.
Definitely understand that. I don't think there's a solution to every problem. We as law enforcement, you know, like I said, I'm a parent. We as law enforcement don't know your kids or other kids. The one thing I didn't mention it, when I was a police canine handler, I talked a lot with kids. I loved it. I could bring the dog in. I had everyone's attention. And I used to tell these kids, you don't have to run with a pack. You can be your own dog. You don't have to do what everyone else does. It's all about education at home. It doesn't start with the state. It doesn't start with the police, the government, or anyone. It starts at home at a very young age. You don't have to do what everyone else does. I told my kids that. Thank God I have you know, a stepdaughter and 2 natural kids that they've never ever got involved in anything like that other than the DUI arrest. I'm sure they went to parties, they had a good time, they did a lot of stuff that I'm probably not aware of, but I always told them you don't have to do what everyone else does. Don't let someone else dictate who you are, what you're going to be. Maybe it helped, I don't know, but you know, the state, ABC, or anyone else isn't going to have a solution that's going to be 100% effective on anything on our kids growing up.
But I think you bring up a good point. A lot of parents don't know how to talk to their kids about these issues. And there are a lot of resources on how to talk to your kids about alcohol and drugs. Because I think it's a very difficult issue because you don't know the balance of being, you know, supportive, of being direct, but there are experts and there have been projects that have spent millions of dollars to help parents with resources on how to talk to your kids. And SAMHSA has a partnership with Drug Free America. So, and these are well vetted resources. So I think certainly when you start talking about, well, I don't know how to talk about this, I mean, you come to places like...
No, I do know how to talk about it. I'm saying that I think that it's important to make a distinction between use and misuse when you have older teens and going off to college. It's not, there is use, and you're not going to eradicate the use. It's about having them safe and having the harm reduced if they use.
Well, there's still strategies and ways to talk about that. I mean, I think, and to me, I've always said this, slippery slope. You never give your kids permission or encouragement to do something illegal. That's just my stance. And if it's illegal for them to do something, I mean, I just don't buy in to just because everybody else is doing it's inevitable. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think we all have to take a standard about which that we can really believe in. Because if I'm communicating, and this is what happens a lot of times, a kid will come to me and say, well, everybody's doing it. The parent will come to me and say, well, everybody's doing it. And I'm like, so what?
I'd like to...
And so we have to take a stance about things that are important to us. And there's no real, everybody has to decide for themselves what they want to do with their children. It's up to you.
I'd like to address that a little bit as a parent who dealt with this. I spoke very openly with my daughter about drinking and drugs, and she knows it's not good for her. Our kids know they shouldn't be doing it. And it brings me back to what I said before, is I asked my daughter why, like what was it? And she told me that, you know what, I fit in. When I was drinking, I fit in. I didn't feel like I fit in anywhere else. And I just want to share that with you because there's a lot of kids out there that don't feel like they fit in.
I hear that a lot.
This is a way for them to let go of their fear of being who they are because they get lost because we've created so much stress and created so much pressure on our kids. They lose who they are and they don't feel like they can be who they are when they're out with their friends, so they drink.
A couple of things real quick on that, and then I'll take this other question. One thing we know from research and science, the approach is based on teaching them how bad these things are, doesn't work. Science says thoroughly that's not the road, and in particular, for your kids here in the beach cities, if anyone's interested in some of the data, there's a thing called the California Healthy Kids Survey, and MiraCosta participates and posts their results. One of the interesting things you see, their rates of drinking are above state and national averages. Their rates of awareness of the dangers are also above state and national averages. These kids are well aware of the dangers and choose to do it anyway. And their rates of drinking and driving are lower than normal. Their rates of getting in the car with somebody who's been drinking, far higher than normal. Just some insights into the kind of thinking we do. One of the things I encourage you to take a look at, there's nothing you can do that will absolutely keep them from doing it, but I think one of the mistakes we make as a society and sometimes individually as parents is, okay, they're gonna do it, so I make that okay and then try to talk to them about it and keep them safe while doing it, and what we miss is this. It's their job to rebel. It is their job to cross lines, it is their job to assert independence, it is their job to break some of the barriers you put in place. And the answer to that is not to expand the barriers. That, yes, they may do some of it, despite the fact that you draw the lines. Keep the lines good and tight, and hopefully their stepping across the line will happen right here and they don't get in much trouble. If I then tell you it's okay to do, then your next step, now if you want to assert your independence across the line, now you need to binge drink. Now you need to go further. And this is part of where we find ourselves as a society. We need to take a look at where we draw the line. It doesn't mean they will never cross it. But if I draw it further and further out, and their job is to cross it occasionally, where are they going to cross it? And we need to ask ourselves that both individually and as a community, and regardless of whether they respect it 100% all the time, draw the lines nice and tight for your kid.
Mike, can I share?
Yes.
On your question about the emotional and stress, from personal experience, I do remember being depressed at a young age, and I do remember the anxiety of becoming a teenager and not feeling like, where do I fit in? And I excelled in sports, but now I'm not playing sports, and it just took the edge off, and it gave me a place to fit in. If you don't fit in anywhere else, you're gonna fit in the party scene if you have a drink in your hand. And just the anxiety that came behind that I didn't even know I had. You know, I didn't know that I was insecure, that I was anxious, that I didn't know what to do with my hands, that I didn't know how to have a conversation, that I didn't know how to say, hi, my name's Melissa. Do you want to be my friend? Can we go to the movies on the weekend? You know, no one taught me how to do that. And now it's getting worse with social media and texting. Kids don't know how to have conversations and how to make friends, and their communication is way worse than it was for me 10 years ago. One thing I want to say is, if you're willing to put money into your children's education through private schools or sports, why wouldn't you put up money into, you know, counseling, getting advice from the professionals? Because you think you know, my parents too thought that they were handling it well, but they had no idea what was going on. The conversations were so uncomfortable for them. It was so hard for them. They didn't understand why I was depressed, why I was anxious, you know. In their mind, there was no reason that I should be, but I was. You know, they were paying for my private school, softball lessons, you know, private lessons here, bought me a new car, paying for my insurance. They knew I was depressed. They knew I suffered from depression from a very young age. They never got me the help. You know, they never got the help for themselves to become better parents either. And like, there are so many resources. You know, I didn't know that existed. And I'm sure that's hard for parents to, if you don't know what's going on, ask for help. Reach out, go online. How can I help my kid? You know, and pay for it. You know, you're willing to pay for everything else, so I don't know. That was just mine.
Don't you think that we're in a society where there's so much given to these kids without them having to do it for themselves? And there's not a lot of character building where they have to figure things out for themselves without their parents always being there to help them out of the situations. I mean, I think some of that could be why we're in this affluent area and these kids they don't have the confidence in themselves because we don't give them that opportunity to fall off the bike. You know, we're always there to try to help them figure it out. I think that's part of it.
You know, one of the things that I've experienced through all the work that I've done is with our kids, you know, when they have these challenges, because our kids are going to make mistakes. They're going to do things that are not in alignment with who we are. But to judge them for their mistakes doesn't help them grow.
Right.
You know, we as parents have to really honor the decisions that they make, and they may not be the best decisions, but how can I support you in that so you can do better next time? How can I help you as your mom? And what you're doing then is establishing a really strong relationship with your child that feels safe to them, and they can come to you when there are challenges. They're not scared. They're not afraid. You know, and as a parent, you become really aware of what goes on in your child's life.
Isn't that, it's like enabling in a way. We're enabling them to, you know, helping them with everything that they need. Their tutors, we don't ever let them just fall.
There's a very interesting book that's fairly new. It's called Raising Wimps. And it's for parents. And there's a message there. I suggested my school teacher sister share that with her parents, but she said she couldn't go there. But I can share that with you as parents. It's a very, very good perspective.
Letting them struggle and flail is difficult. And I know we got hands all over in the room, and we're like 5 minutes from there, so I'm going to try and pick them in the order I think they went up. My apologies if that does not end up in be it, or if we don't have time for more than another one. I know some of us will be here for a while, so if you don't get a chance to ask during the main thing, please stick around and ask someone. And also, it's heartening to see this many parents in this room. I think as a community, we need to keep having this conversation. This is a start. Last year we did this. We're down in the main one. We didn't have a quarter of these people. Let's keep building off of it. If you're willing to continue this conversation, if you don't get to have all of it tonight, please get a hold of one of us. Be part of this going forward. Show up on the 28th. Let's not stop this just because we're going to be out of time tonight. We do have some commitments about the room and other things we do need to honor. I know that hand's been going up for a while. And I'm going to get to the other side of the room if we have time.
Hi. As a parent of 2 teenagers, I was listening very carefully to all the things that the speakers were saying, and one of the things that really touched me was that people are talking about it starts at home and about being a vigilant parent and, you know, not advocating that your kids do anything illegal and really towing that line. And I think everyone in this room completely relates to that and feels wonderful hearing you say it. My concern and my observation in this community is that I actually think there's a great proportion of parents who are actually modeling the opposite of that behavior. I mean, I'm not a scientist and I'm not going to use big lofty words like it's an epidemic, but honestly, I think that there are a lot of parents that are modeling the binge drinking behavior and sending Uber cars to pick up their kids from parties because they're at a party they don't want to leave, and et cetera, et cetera. And so if it starts at home, and if we're trying to, you know, model and toe the line, and we have this enormous population of people in our area who are modeling the opposite of what you're talking about, how do we help all those kids?
It's hypocritical, isn't it? Such a mixed message that we're giving our kids and they're already confused.
One quick thing I'd say, those of you that feel that the community norm needs to be different than that, be as active as they are. They're active, they're taking action behind the belief system. What you're talking about absolutely exists. And it's going to go on every weekend, if not during the weekdays. They're out there doing something with what they believe and making things happen. You need to start talking, you need to start doing. Those of you that feel differently, community norms can be changed. We got one over there and then here, and then we're definitely going to be out of time, so a couple left.
My question's a bit more cut and dry and probably more directed to the folks in the legal world, the police chief, Ms. Jenkins, and John from the ABC. But this prevalence and access to these very high quality fake identifications, what are the true legal ramifications and some actual information we can share with our youth that, you know, this is not okay and to not cavalierly carry fake identification and utilize fake identification?
Because they're not afraid of getting caught. They have no fear of the police.
Well, I know, so what are the ramifications?
It's a misdemeanor to possess a fake ID. Most of these are obtained from out of the country, some from China, some from other countries. It costs on average $200. to get to, I'm sorry?
Park, MacArthur Park, Pershing Square.
Yeah.
USC.
And lots of kids have it. Generally, they will send them 2 fake IDs. So if you don't want to say be nosy, but
if we could share with them, like, what will happen?
it's a misdemeanor if you're caught with a fake ID. I'm trying to think of what the ramifications are on your true ID, your driving privileges and so forth. I'm not sure.
Yeah, their driving privileges will be revoked if they get caught using a fake ID.
Until they're 21.
And a lot of the bar owners, and I know Dave is here, but they check whether it's a valid ID or not, and they have that little, it's like a black light looking thing, I don't even know what it's called, but they can scan the ID to see if it's fake or real if they're trying to get into bars. It's a question of what are they doing with that ID? Are they going into a Vons to try and buy a bottle of beer or alcohol or whatever? It's what are they using it for? What are the odds that they'll get caught? It depends on what are they using it for.
And in Manhattan Beach, a lot of the bars and restaurants and stores confiscate the ID. But there's a large fine, there can be probation. It's not a pretty thing. I do those as office conferences, and they're so unhappy.
The fake IDs are very good quality. You can hit them with a black light, it'll show. There's a hologram on them, it'll show. They're
At
very,
$150
very good
on college campuses. That's what they're paying for, the kids are paying for.
And in some cases, it could actually be older than 21. I have a client now who's 23 and still does not have their license, and it can continue on and have repercussions if they are trying to get an apartment or even a mortgage. If they're up to that point, it can affect their college financial aid applications. There's lots of different things that can happen. It can continue on legally.
You know, you've been patient up in front. This can be our last question, so we don't take the first.
I think that a big part of the problem is that everyone's in denial, or things seem to get covered up when they happen in the community. And I know that the juveniles have privacy issues, but is there any way you guys could give some information on, like, how many underage people do you pick up? How many people go to court? How many do you have in Thelma McMillan in a year? Like, how many do you see? I mean, I think stuff like that would help people instead of everyone feeling like, well, you know, there's those few bad kids.
You know, statistics are part, you can give people numbers, but they're already in denial. It's not my kid. It's somebody else's problem. And parents, and I see it all the time where they don't want to admit that it's their kid because they think that implies they're a bad parent. And let's face it, how many of you know a family that has 3 or 4 kids and they're all perfect but one? Raised in the same environment, same morals, same standards, same family traditions and influences, but one of them is just a bad apple. It's not about being a bad parent. There's different things going on. It's about, like you said, finding out what's going on with that kid. But parents, especially in neighborhoods where they're trying to keep up appearances, don't want to admit that anything's going on.
Well, that's
so even telling them, the police department picked up this many kids, well, that's that kid down the street, or that's so-and-so.
But is it like a weekly thing, monthly? Like,
well, we've tried to, we have a program called First Step, which is like education and prevention. So parents can come, and if they think there's something going on, it's no cost. It's a 4-week program, get education about what's happening. And at the end of that 4 weeks, if they need treatment, then we have resources to get, a way to set that up. In terms of treatment, we see, we average, maybe 5 new IOP cases per month now. So we have a smaller program. We get a lot of kids that we do consults with, and we send them different places. So I think that people are becoming, we get a lot of our referrals, for example, from therapists in the community. Kid goes in, the therapist notices, well, there's a little bit more going on than anxiety. There's some use going on. We get from my good friend here. And she prefers to let them get treatment, First Step, IOP, as opposed to putting them in jail. And so I think people becoming more comfortable with the idea there's a problem, let's do something about it. That's where that acceptance comes about.
And I could tell you a number, but I'd be guessing. I don't know. I probably over the last 2 years, 120 cases, about 40 of them
social host ordinances, but I could be totally wrong.
Just a couple of things on that, and then some of us will stick around. If we start taking others, we're already over time. A lot of the worst case scenarios are never going to show up on statistics for folks here because they quietly go away to boarding school somewhere in our state, and those people are not going to share the info, and nobody's going to know. One of the places you can get the info, look on California Healthy Kids Survey from New Costa, and I'll tell you this, the number that report binge drinking in the past month alone, that number by itself should be enough for people to go, this is unacceptable. It's a high percentage.
It really is.
And
Scary.
when we did our original stuff back in 2010, when we started this grant and did the focus groups, and Beach State's Health District had gone into the junior highs and done even more in-depth research, the California Healthy Kids Survey data is pretty accurate. Those kids are reporting, what they report there matches up with what we see in the other areas. And that gives you from the kids, here's what we're doing, and those numbers are not okay. And anyone can get that. So that, to me, would be your best resource data-wise. De-identified data could be given, and you could look at different arrests. I mean, you could look at what a wonderful job the HBPD did with the 4th of July from a few years ago to where it was at last year. There's some success stories happening too. Please contact us if you have questions, but I don't want to keep anyone over time. I want to give our panel one last hand. You guys were awesome. Thank you all for being here and for caring. This is where the change starts, in those seats, not up here.
Yeah, good, yeah.